Hey, this is Rick from Hiking Emergency Beacon, and today I want to compare the Garmin GPSMAP 66i right here versus the Spot X. But before we get into all that, please like, subscribe, share, and turn on notifications so you'll be alerted as soon as I put out new videos. Well, these have some similarities and a lot of differences. So let's start with the similarities. Both of them have the SOS function where you can call for emergency services. They both have two-way messaging, and what else? They operate off satellite systems, and those are some of the most common things. They both have pre-programmable messages, so instead of typing some of the more common messages, you can just select a message. Those are, again, other than size. Now, size they're similar to. The Spot X is about a ½ inch wider. They're about the same height, and they're about the same weight. The Garmin, this GPSMAP 66i, comes in about, I think, 8 ounces, and the Spot X is about 7 ounces. All the specs will be on the screen for you can see that. Well, let's talk about specifically some things that each one are good at, and then we'll wrap it up with my favorites from field tests here in Colorado. I'm not just pulling information off the internet. I have done my research on things like that, but I am researching them in the field. Now, I'm not in the field now, I'm in a studio, but that's what I do. I go out and I've tested both these in the field and compared them against each other. So let's talk about the Spot X for a second. Now, the first thing about the Spot X I don't like, it really doesn't come with a great way to attach to your backpack. Now, sure, it did attach fine here, and I have a trekking pole strap, and these things you can do to tie this down. But if you don't tie it down and you just put it with this carabiner here, it's going to flop all over. And the first time I ever went out in the field, I'm hiking and climbing over stuff, and this thing really was just whipping all over. So make sure if you do have a Spot X, any big satellite communicator, that you make sure it's secured appropriately on your pack. Some of the good things about this that I really like, it has a built-in keyboard. It makes it much easier to type. Say if you're typing on this versus this. This one here you have to arrow around, and there is a keypad built in so you can arrow around. It's easy to pick it, and it's easier than the Mini 2 to type a message on the device itself. This here is much easier. It's like the old Blackberries. You can just type it in here much faster. It works really well. This also has a unique US cell phone number, and that's great because anybody can can message you if they have your phone number. The Garmin inReach devices do not have a unique number. If I were to message somebody on a Mini 2, a Messenger, the 66i, whatever you want to consider, when that happens, Garmin assigns a phone number for 24 hours. So then they can contact you back by that phone number or your inReach email address. But after 24 hours, that phone number goes away. And so if somebody wanted to contact you 2 days later and you had sent them a message, they can't contact you on that phone number because it only lasts for 24 hours. And I believe it's because spam messages, calls, and things. So they do that so that you don't have a phone number and you're getting spam messages. Now, if I'm wrong, put a comment below and we'll talk about it and I'll learn something along with everybody else. But this is really back to the Spot X here. You can message. This is really a communicator. This is great at communicating. It has Bluetooth. Now make sure some of the old Spot X's didn't have Bluetooth. This one you can see right here, it does have Bluetooth. So you can sync to your phone, and on your phone you can, easier than this, you can type messages. And what else can you do? I'm going to put a few things up on the screen here because I've probably forgotten them as I'm talking of things you can do with this, but there are a few things you can do with the Spot X on your phone. However, I'll just tell you right now, people can see you on the trail and the map of where you're at when you share your location. You cannot see a map on this, nor if you are synced with Bluetooth. I thought, actually, when I bought this, that I'd be able to see on my phone with the Bluetooth a map. Not on this, but on my phone. Because that's what happens with the Garmin inReach Mini and Mini 2. You can't see a map on the Mini 2 even though you can't see trails and tracks, but you can see the map on your phone. That is not the case with the Spot X. All right, so it's great at two-way messaging. It has the SOS. There's a flap over here somewhere. Well, it's right on the front, right in front of my face. Open that up, press it for 3 seconds or so, and you'll have search and rescue teams come to you. All right, again, great communicator. And if you have this, it's awesome. At least you have some way to communicate with search and rescue teams and with friends and family. Say it's not a life-threatening emergency, but you still want to communicate. That's great for that. I like the Spots. The Spot X, actually the Spot Gen 3 was my very first satellite communicator. And that's only a one-way satellite communicator, but having something on your pack is important. Let's talk real quick about the Garmin GPS 66i. You can see the first thing about it is it has a backpack tether. It has Velcro on both of these. It's easily attached. It's right there. It gets a great view of the sky. Both these have pretty good views of the sky. This one sits up a little bit higher. You can do the same thing with the Spot X, but I have mine down lower because I want to strap it down with my trekking pole strap. If I were using the Spot X a lot, I would put it higher and I would have a separate kind of strap to get the antenna up a little higher in the air and have a better view of the sky so that I could also still use my trekking pole attachment or strap. But on this here, again, this is a backpack tether from Garmin. I'll have information in the description below on it. They're only, I think, $19. And I'll just warn you that on the Mini 2, I've had several questions about it. Now this one here, actually, on the 66i, it has a spine right here for it, so you don't need a spine attachment. On the Mini 2, somebody just messaged me today and asked about it. I've had a lot of comments about the Mini 2. It does not come with a spine attachment. So if you want to use a backpack tether with the Mini 2, you have to buy from Garmin or through Amazon, wherever. You have to buy a spine attachment for the Mini 2. All right, the nice thing about the GPSMAP 66i is it has built-in topo maps. And there's accelerometers, I can't even think right now. It's not odometer, doesn't have an odometer, but it has an altimeter. It's things that are built in, so it'll sense your movement better and your altitude better than, say, the Mini 2. The Mini 2 doesn't have that built in. I'm going to have screenshots of all this here because I don't have it on right now, but I just know from using it. But this is great because it has these keypad here, and it's easy to move around, and you can see the map, and then you go into your menu, and then if you want to type in a message, you type it in here. You do have to arrow around, but it's nice because, I say nice, it's not as nice as messaging with the Spot X, but when you start typing in a word, it will autofill, so you'll be able to select. If you want to say, I'll be home, you'll type in H or HO, and all of a sudden home a lot of times will show up. So it's easier to message than you think. But this thing here, you can see where the satellites are in the sky. You can create routes. And I'm going to go back to one thing real quick here. You can navigate by both these. You can set waypoints down. It's not as easy to put waypoints down as this one here on the 66i. It's easy to put a waypoint down on the Spot X when you're at your location and you select put a waypoint down. That's no problem. If you want to put a waypoint down somewhere else, you have to have the coordinate because you don't have a map. On this one here, there's a map, and I can arrow around and I can move it to on the map because I want to go right over there. And I can put a waypoint right down there, and then I can navigate to it and I can navigate back. And the nice thing is, too, you can actually create a route here on the device and on your phone. And again, Bluetooth, it syncs, so I can have my cell phone, and I can type a message on my phone. Another great feature about the 66i and Mini 2 and other inReach devices, it has track back. So not only can you see your location on the map, but if you get lost, you could stop navigating, and maybe you didn't even navigate or weren't following a route. And I tested this the other day, but you can track back. If you had just gotten out of the vehicle and you started hiking and you're lost, then it'll at least put a point down. I think it puts a point down every 10 minutes when you don't start tracking or you're not following a route. It'll put enough points down so at least you can get back to safety. But if you're logging and you're tracking, and logging is for when you're sending information to other people who are your SharePoint, your map share, sorry. And if that log interval is how often they see where you're at. But when you're tracking, you can set your activity to high detail. Man, it'll follow within every couple seconds it's putting a point on the trail. And for example, if you're on a new trail and there's nothing on Gaia or all trails, then you can go out there, put a high detail down, and you can nail that course down really well. But it's nice because on track back, if you say track back, it'll follow exactly along the trail. And if you get off the trail, then you'll get warnings and alerts that you're off when you're back on course. I love the Mini 2, and I know this isn't about the Mini 2, but I love the Mini 2 for this reason, that when you're on track back, it will alert you audibly and visually that you're on or off the course if you stray from the course. But I'll tell you what, this thing here is so powerful, the 66i. There are so many things it can do. And you know what? I'm going to go turn it on for just a second because I've tried to list all the things on this. And while it's warming up here and turning it on, I'll just tell you that you can change everything on the menu. So if you have 5, 6, 10 different things that you use most, you can go into the menu settings and you can move them all to the top. And it makes it much more simple. So yes, it's really powerful in a lot of things here, but you can adjust. So here you can see it's on now. And I am going to, again, you'll have screenshots of all this stuff. I'm going to go into, now you hit quit. So I'm going to hit quit. This is one way to get to the main menu. So there's a menu. And I'm just going to give you some things here. It has messaging, SOS, weather. I want to stop right there. Again, you cannot get weather that I know of on the Spot X. You can get it on this 66i. Very detailed weather too. You can pick standard weather and then a high detail weather, and it goes by days, an hour, and all that. It's really good to have. I don't use it that much, honestly, but there's been a few times I've been on a long week trip and I knew what the weather was going out there, but then, it changes during the week. And so I found myself wanting to know the weather a few times, but on shorter trips, I usually don't check the weather. But you have Waypoint Manager, Route Planner, Active Route, Course Planner, Collections Manager, Tracking, Photo Viewer, InReach, Utilities, Recording Controls. And so you go on and on and on. Active weather. Now, I will say about active weather. Active weather is great because you could see where the storm is, where the hot parts of the storm is. The only thing about that, when I tried to use active weather, I believe you had to be in Wi-Fi. It wouldn't even allow it in cell service. Just, again, when you go out, make sure you always check because not everything works as you think, and there's little defined print that says, hey, it only works this way in this situation. Just always check. So there's geocaching, sight and go, save tracks, proximity alarms, share wirelessly, profile change, calendar, hunt and fish, area calculation, sun and moon. So you can see when the sun's going to rise and set on this one. And stopwatch, there's a flashlight on this. You can see where the satellites are at, how many satellites are up, how good of the sensor it is, because you get the more satellites, the more accurate it's going to be. Trip computer, compass, map. So I didn't even name all the stuff on this. It's very, very powerful. And there's altimeter, trip computer, some of the stuff that scrolls along the bottom, the compass. Now this has a compass, Spot X has a compass too. And I'll just say here that if you're navigating with the Spot X, because you don't have a map, it's going to give you a direction and a distance, and I believe it even gives you your altitude, your elevation, but that's all it gives you. So you have to use common sense, and when it's saying, hey, you're a mile away, well, what's in your way for that 1 mile? How many times do you have to go around a trail or cross a river or there's a cliff? It doesn't give you all that. On this one here, on the 66i, you can change it and see a satellite image, you can see a topo or a quad map, and you can then even see where it looks like a river. It could be, you can tell from the contours if it looks really steep. You can tell so much more from this. Plus you can actually put on there and you say, well, okay, this looks like the best way to go. And you can put a route in by touching and create that and then follow that route back. Not only do you see where you're at on the topo map, but you can follow it back, the route. I've had a lot of people who say, well, hey, it doesn't matter, you don't need a map. Well, sure you don't need a map, because you can use a map on your phone. Here's the big problem. That's all fine if you're on a day hike or short trips. But if you go out for a week, 2 weeks, or you're in some really rugged country and your phone is not going to last with the battery life. I mean, mine lasts about a day and a half, but if I use it a lot, it won't last more than a day. And mine has a pretty good battery, but it's not meant for rugged outdoor use. Where these are, if they're not waterproof, they're water resistant, they're dust resistant, dust proof, and vibration and all that. If you drop it, a phone is not good for somebody climbing Mount Everest. As an example, it's an extreme example, but there are cases here where you want to just rely on these devices. Well, if you're relying on these devices and you want to see where you're at and you want to see a map, you're not going to get it on the Spot X. And here with this 66i, if you're out, or say the Garmin InReach Explorer Plus, and there's several Garmin products that do this, this can get you out of trouble. Both communicate. They can get you SOS and get you help, but this one will, you can see where you're at and you can plan a route, you can track a route, you can create a brand new route while you're out. So yes, it really depends on what you like to do. What are priorities for you? How do you use it? There's not a one device for everybody. I have some that I like the best, but if you leave a comment and you're asking a question, I'm going to do my best to direct you to the right device, not the 66i. Honestly, right now, the Mini 2 is still my favorite satellite messenger, but because this one doesn't have a really long battery life. The Spot X, I believe, has a longer battery life than the 66i. But I'm still testing this out, and I found ways to improve the battery, and it might become my favorite. Well, if I've forgotten anything, I'm going to put it up on the screen. But you can see I've already just shared what my favorite is, and they're both great. If you have a Spot X or a Gen 3 or a Gen 4, they're great, and you need something on your pack. And if you don't have a lot of money, I'd say look at the Gen 4, the Spot Gen 4. But if you got a little extra money, then it's nice to have some of these conveniences. I thought initially that when I was testing these out that I'd want two-way messaging, but I wouldn't want all the extra fancy features. But that is not what has happened since I have had it and tested them. The more I test them, the more I use them here in Colorado, the more I like these features. And I've talked to lots of different people. People use them all kinds of different ways. And I think maybe Don had sent a message to me. He uses the ACR Bivy stick. And one thing he does, and other people have done this and said, you don't always have to have these on. You can leave them off. Now, if they're off, somebody can't communicate with you when it's off. But if you just check in periodically, you could check in 2 or 3 times a day, in the morning and night, maybe sometime in the middle of the day. You can see where you're at, you can check weather, you can do different things, but then turn it back off. That'll save your battery and it'll last a long time. There's all kinds of great advice and things that you can do with these satellite messengers. And so if you leave a comment here or ask a question, I've seen so many questions and comments now and the way people do things that I can help you and give you some advice on which one might be the best satellite messenger for you and ways that you can improve your battery life. Or if you don't want to spend money on a more expensive subscription plan, how can you track and not have to pay for tracking on a less expensive plan? So love to help you. If you've got any questions, leave a comment below. That's really it. There's so much more about these things, but I've done so many tests. And again, I hope you enjoyed seeing all the different screenshots. But again, if you have any questions, leave a comment below and I'll answer them. And if you give me a really good question, I will go back out in the field and I will do a field test to check if I don't know the answer. I'll either show you a video or that I've already done, or I'll go create a video to test what you have asked, and then I'll post it and you'll know more, and so will I. Well, thanks for joining me here today on Hiking Emergency Beacon. Again, please like, subscribe, share, and I will see you in the next video.